Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. It's great to see all of you for Equalize 2025. My name is Nicole Mercier. I am the Assistant Vice Chancellor and Managing Director of the Office of Technology Management at Washington University in St. Louis, and President and one of the co-founders of Equalize. Today marks our 6th Equalize event. Our mission is to bolster entrepreneurship and academic women across the country. We accomplish this by inviting women innovators with early-stage university technology to participate in a 6-month program during which we equip them with the knowledge and guidance necessary for their startup journeys. Equalize matches each innovator with a domain-specific mentor, provides entrepreneurship training from a cadre of relevant experts, and helps equalizers build a network of investors, domain experts, and peers to advance along their startup path. Equalize provides a cultivating environment where participants acclimate to the language and the process of the startup. And that new knowledge gives each confidence needed for success in sharing and partnering their ideas. Including this year's participants, Equalize has now emboldened over 125 women to take part in the entrepreneurship community and to know they belong in it. Equalizers have worked hard to get here today, and we know you'll be very impressed with their pitches. But their mentors have also worked hard, dedicating countless hours, value-filled, and graciously opening their networks. Like us, the mentors have seen the tremendous potential in these women, and many of them have been mentoring several years in this program. Each year, I'm amazed, but never surprised, at how uniformly equalizers express how their mentor is the perfect match. Equalize mentors are dedicated to enabling the participants to become the biggest advocates for themselves and for each other. And our judges here today, many of whom recommit to Equalize each year, are also a phenomenal aspect of our program. Most judges are diligent investors and experienced startup advisors who, as you'll experience, are thorough in their questions and supportive in their suggestions. We are so grateful for all of our mentors and judges with us this year. And of course, Equalize does not happen without our sponsors. A special thanks to our platinum sponsor, AstraZeneca. Our gold sponsors, Osage University Partners, Armstrong Teasdale, Polsinelli, Novo Nordisk, and MassBio. Our silver sponsors, Zontogeny and Wolf Greenfield. And our bronze and friend sponsors, Fish & Richardson, Merck, Future Forward, GTC Law Group, Amgen Ventures, Norton Rose Fulbright, Fuentech, and Portal Innovations. We have really increased the number of sponsors for Equalize this year, and we are, again, so grateful for your generosity. Because of the generosity of these sponsors, we're pleased to announce today that today's overall winners, as chosen by the judges, will each receive a cash prize of $5,000 and a customized glass award created by Third Degree Glass Studio in St. Louis. The People's Choice winners will also receive a customized glass award created by Third Degree Glass Studio in St. Louis. Now I would like to introduce Pam Hill, who is Senior Director and Head of Open Innovation with our platinum sponsor, AstraZeneca. Pam will provide the introduction for our keynote speaker. Before I turn the microphone over, I would like to say that this is the second year AstraZeneca has supported Equalize as its platinum sponsor. The AstraZeneca team has been heavily involved in planning and mentoring and supporting all aspects of Equalize, which is a tremendous asset to our program. Pam?
Thank you, Nicole. I'm so happy to be here today. AstraZeneca is proud to be a platinum sponsor of Equalize. We know that the pace of scientific innovation is faster now than it ever has been before. And that makes it that much more critical that we're ensuring that all great ideas, no matter who they come from or where they come from, have an opportunity to grow and thrive. Equalize not only provides a platform to foster the development of great ideas, but also creates a community of empowered innovators. And that's why we're proud to be involved. And with that, I'm pleased to present Equalize 2025's keynote speaker, Nancy Briefs. Nancy is a visionary leader, an accomplished executive with a distinguished career spanning over 4 decades. As a serial CEO and independent board member, she's been at the forefront of driving innovation, improving patient outcomes, and shaping the future of many life science companies. Her diverse experience spans various industry sectors, including medical devices, pharmaceuticals, digital health, and venture capital. This broad perspective has given her a unique ability to drive innovation by bridging the gaps between business strategy and execution. Recognized for her exceptional leadership and contributions in the field, Nancy has received numerous accolades throughout her career. She's been invited to speak at prestigious industry conferences and has served on various advisory boards and committees, influencing public policy and shaping the future of patient care. Beyond her professional achievements, Nancy is deeply committed to giving back to the community. Nancy, we're so glad to have you speaking with us today. I'll pass the virtual microphone to you.
There we go. Great. Thank you very much. I'm very excited today to be with all of you women entrepreneurs. It's really an honor for me to see all of your great technologies and what you're working on. And I've had the benefit of the last 40 years of being at the forefront, as you heard, of innovation. And one of the things they asked me to talk about today was inspiration. You know, how do you not only get that spark for a new idea, which all of you have done, whether you found that through your personal experience or you've observed problems in the clinics or in your academic centers, but what is it about inspiration that keeps us going? And I think that that inspiration to be an entrepreneur is something that you just have or you don't have. I don't think it's something that you can learn. It's being able to look at that challenge and say, I think I've got a better solution. And I think that we could sustain this idea to make a business that will make a difference for patients. And that creates the opportunity for leading solutions and, most importantly, for all of you, as I'm sure you've learned through this program, to be incredibly resilient and to persevere. I've found being an entrepreneur, you really have to have a tough skin because most of the time, the answer that you get is no. And being able to understand, learn from that, and grow your company is going to be so important as you advance to the next stage. You're going to learn a lot as entrepreneurs. I remember I kind of fell into the business. I was in the cardiovascular field, and I thought there was a better way to do something, and had the, I guess, courage to tell someone that I thought we could make things better, built some technology that came out of an academic center, and then learned as I went by connecting to people and having great mentors. And I heard earlier today how great the mentors were at the program. Last year, I had an opportunity to meet the cohort in Cambridge and was so impressed with all of the mentors and people here in the program. I think today in this environment, probably the stakes have never been higher for all of us as entrepreneurs. There's global geopolitical tensions, there's changes happening with our new administration. And I think the ability to make decisions and stay focused on what you guys are working on is going to be so crucial going forward. One of the things that I've learned is that you can listen to the noise, but you have to be able to figure out which signals that really make a difference. And what do I mean by that? So one of the startups that I was working on was a transcatheter valve technology. And when we first started, we were getting a lot of feedback that patients would not want to have their valves treated with a catheter, right? They'd want to have surgery, they'd want the gold standard. And we then started talking to cardiologists, interventionalists who said, well, you know, this has great promise. So we had to turn off some of the noise that we were hearing and really understand what was it about our product profile that could make a difference for patients and could improve not only their health, but the cost and long-term viability. So I really encourage all of you to when you have questions, to reach out to your mentors, to talk to other CEOs. I have found, for me personally, it's been invaluable because being a CEO, as many of you have probably learned, is probably one of the loneliest jobs there is. And people are always coming to you for answers. One of the key North Stars for me and all of my teams has always been to have the right questions, not the right answers. If you ask the right questions, your team and your ecosystem will help you find the right answers. So definitely encourage you to keep asking questions and make sure that you're staying focused on the strategy. Now, many of us who have been entrepreneurs know that what we start out with is not where we end up, right? That pivoting is so important, and pivoting should not be considered as failure. I want you to think of it as a way to understand what's happening internally and externally, and being able to change direction so that your technology, while it may not be exactly the initial path, gets to humans and ends up being the right fit. And the importance there is that you have to encourage your team to also be able to fail. Because if they can make small failures early, you're going to improve your technology and in the end can accelerate it to the clinic and to patients. And those kinds of early challenges, I think, will really help you define your journey and will help you understand that serving patients is going to be one of the most exciting things you do in your career. When you see your technology used on patients in the US, in Europe, and around the world, I have to tell you, it's been the most satisfying thing of my life. And I have 6 kids, so I had a lot of fun satisfying other events along the way. The other important thing, I think, to have a highly successful startup, which I did not do very well in my first couple of companies, and that was to have balance. I was working like a crazy maniac, 80, 90 hours a week. And instead of having periods of intensity where I needed to work like that, I was finding that I was burning out, right? The hustle, the constant pitching, running the company, making sure your employees are taken care of as well. It can be grueling. And I think one of the things that in the last couple of, I'd say 20 years, has really become much more important is to understand that there are going to be waves of intensity and activity, but that you need to make sure that you're healthy and that you can mentally be prepared, because when you start to burn out, you cannot be your best self, nor will it be helpful for your team. And as the leader, they're going to constantly be looking up to you. I read a startup survey once that reviewed 400 founders. And what it said is that 72% of them felt that being an entrepreneur had impacted their mental health. And a third of them had suffered from burnout. So if there's a lesson I learned that I could share with all of you, is that working longer doesn't and harder doesn't mean that you're being more productive. You need to make sure you focus on the things that are the most efficient and helpful for your company, and be willing to make these waves. Sometimes 40, 50 hours a week may be enough, but there are times when you're getting ready to file it with the agency FDA, or you're in a clinical trial and you're getting a data, that you're going to have to work much more. But make sure you create balance and that you have some joy in your life, right? I remember a quote from Confucius who said that choose a job you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And for me, that's what happened. I have absolutely fallen in love with working which is why now, even as I'm at the end of my career, in the next chapter, I'm doing 3 corporate boards and a number of mentoring programs because I think it's important to give back. You guys are at an incredible time in the market. There's so much opportunity, and healthcare needs all of your innovation so desperately. So make sure that you don't work too hard and burn yourself out. And remember that at the end of the day, the inspiration, that spark that got you going on your innovation is going to be there. And when you need it, you need to turn to it so that you can motivate yourself and others so that your company can become best in class. And you can one day look back and say, I helped these patients and their lives have been changed and for the better because of what I've done. So those are a few of my words for the entrepreneurs here. And I know there's time for questions. I don't know how we want to manage that. Katie, do you want to see if there are questions or?
So that's great. We actually haven't done questions before, but I'm happy to take a few if somebody wants to put a couple in the chat. I might ask you because many of them are women here and they all have their personal lives, and you mentioned that you have 6 kids, and I would love to hear more about how you personally balanced sort of the obligations of your personal life with some of the obligations we know that are demanding, like you said, you're on call all the time.
So yeah, it's a great question. Let me start by saying you can't have it all at the same time. But for me, I inherited 4 kids very quick. My husband was a widower with 4 children. So if you can imagine inheriting 4 kids who are teenagers while you're a CEO, it was an interesting ride, let me just say. It took me a while to adapt. But what I found is that I reached out to my community for help. And because I was a CEO, I could afford to have the extra help I needed, right? So I could have someone at home when they came home from high school so that they were doing their homework. We could have a tutor. And I found personally that coming home and needing to be their parent was the first time that I started to get balance in my life because I didn't have children yet. And I was a workaholic and didn't have empathy, frankly, for many of the people on my team who were parents. And so I made a deliberate effort to tell my team that I was a parent now and I needed to be able to have some flexibility. And being an entrepreneur gives you that because we can work at night, do second shifts. And I found a system that worked for me where I would try to be home every night for dinner with the kids so I could communicate and make sure I knew what was going on. And then because they were older, I could then go back to the office. So those were days when we still went back and forth to the office. We didn't know about the advantages of remote working. So my offices were never more than 15 minutes from my house, and I would go back and forth as needed. And what I learned through that was that being present for them actually gave me a chance to mentally shut off the responsibilities of being the CEO for a couple of hours. And we started as a team then doing what we called personal time, where we would not text or call each other or even send an email during 6 to 8 p.m. every night. And all of the employees really enjoyed it. Men and women. I mean, it was amazing because it gave everybody a mental break and they knew it was okay to take that. The other thing is I started to go to school functions, and I had a number of PhDs that came up to me and said, I've never been to any of my children's teachers' conferences because they're during school. And I said, well, if you don't go, I'm going to fire you. So I want to know everybody's schedules with their kids, and I expect you to go. And I found the team was more productive and closer with each other because of that. I made the other thing I did, because I had to travel a lot, was I made sure that my husband and I, one of us was always at home with the kids. And I got very good at looking at homework via fax and email. And I would check, I had a famous hotel in Munich where we were doing some studies. I was there every 3 weeks for 4 days. And I would check into the hotel and they'd say, oh, there's a history report coming through on the fax machine. And so everyone got to know that I was the woman with the kids that would be sending stuff over for my arrival. So you just make it work. And then when I had younger kids that were infants, I would record books. I'd read to them all their favorite books. And then when I wasn't there, my husband would play me reading to them every night. So they heard my voice every night. So you do what you can to make sure that they're well taken care of. And I can tell you now that all 6 of them have graduated, are professionals. I have 2 in healthcare, a couple engineers, and a couple software people. So yeah, they all survived and are doing well. Yeah.
That's fantastic. That's right. Contributing to society, and you have done that immensely yourself. One more question that came in the chat, and maybe this will be the last one before we need to move on. Many, as you know, Equalize supports women who are still in their jobs as faculty, postdoc, grad student, some scientist, maybe a staff scientist, and they're all looking to pull the intellectual property out of their university labs into a startup. And I think the question coming through in the chat is around being the CEO of the company and maintaining that job, even if you work part-time. So the specific question came from somebody who's a part-time physician, but I know, in being in the tech transfer space, I get this question all the time. Can I be CEO of my company and retain my job at the university? So maybe you could comment on that.
I think it depends. It depends on what stage the company is at and how much energy you have as the entrepreneur to do that second shift, if you will. And eventually,
Usual,
you're
we
going to
have like
need.
5 or 6 bullet slides.
Can we make sure everyone
That's
is on
pretty
mute,
much it. I
please?
mean,
What I was going to say, Nicole, is my experience, because all 7 of my companies, the IP has come out of academic centers, right? There comes a point where you're going to need a full-time person running the company. And I think at that point, the entrepreneur and the investors, and the team, you have to decide what's best for the organization. I think at the beginning, you can do both, but I don't think it can be indefinite. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, Nancy, thank you so much for your thoughts. I mean, it was remarkable to see you and meet you last year and just see how you dived right in and sat with many of our equalizers. And these remarks today have just been terrific for us to really consider how we use mentors, how we think about balance ourselves, and bringing our best selves to our work and our jobs. So thank you again for being here with us today.
Oh, thank you. It was an honor. Thanks.